I got into this industry because I was a huge film lover and movie lover and television lover. When I was a kid, at a very young age, I think around 5 or 6, um, I was always watching TV and always watching movies constantly because I really didn't have a lot of parental guidance around me. So that was kind of my teacher. And does that work for you? um, anyway, yeah. So I used to lose myself in movies and television and things. It was kind of like my church. I was never really a religious person or really into any of that kind of stuff. But movies and television, that was my church. I learned a lot about life. I learned a lot about art, and I learned a lot about music, and the arts through movies and television and music. So that's kind of really all I ever thought about doing. I knew that there were careers in it, kind of, but as a kid, you don't really know for sure until I got a little older. And I think Rick Baker won the very first Academy Award for, I believe it was American Werewolf in London. And that proved to me that you could do that for a living. You could make a living at that. So I went to my guidance counselor in school and said, "This is what I want to do for a living. What are the classes and things? What do I got to do in order to make a career out of that?" And this was back. I grew up in Pittsburgh, outside of Pittsburgh. So my guidance counselor said, "That's not a real job. You can't do that for a living. So you have to pick something else." And I was like, "You can't work in the movies for a living? I mean, somebody's got to make all that stuff." He says, "Yeah, but you'll never do it. This is a small town, and you'll never make it out there, and that's not a real job. It's unattainable. So you need to pick something else." And so I was really disappointed, and but for some reason, again, still had blinders and wanted to do. That's all I really wanted to do. And also, I was a huge fan of Lon Chaney, and Lon Chaney is an actor slash makeup artist, and I was also interested in acting. And so those two things together, Lon Chaney, Rick Baker, all those things, Rob Bottin, um, Jack Pierce, obviously, the original Universal Monsters, all these people were really influential to me and artists. So I had some family that lived out here in Los Angeles, and so I moved. I saved up my money. I'm not going to tell you how I made that money, but I saved up my money and moved to Los Angeles when I was 15 and lived with a relative briefly, and then I got a job as I think it was a bouncer. I think it was a bouncer or something, and a video store and a record store and things like that, and started and got an apartment and started all this time working on makeup and practicing and figuring how to work it out and learn things and uh, eventually just started putting a portfolio together and taking pictures of my stuff and trying to go places where I thought maybe makeup artists would be hanging out, and makeup supply stores and stuff. And I met people and started kind of networking as best I could. And then um, um, I got a job. I started calling shops and pounding on their doors and really just harassing them. I mean, I'm leaving a lot out, but I started harassing, literally just bugging them all the time, bugging them all the time, bugging them all the time. And eventually someone caved. And that was, I think, Tom Berman's shop. And that was my first job in a shop was Tom Berman's. And I didn't know anything really. I mean, I did and I didn't. And through that, I met Bill Corso, and Bill Corso was at Steve Johnson's, and Bill and I became friends, and he got me an interview at Steve's, and I got a job at Steve's. So I went from Tom Berman to Steve Johnson's XFX. Steve offered me a job, and he was going to pay me with circus tickets, and I said, and I was like, okay. And he said to me, he goes, "What? Are you crazy?" He goes, "You would actually work for circus tickets?" I was messing with you. I was like, I would totally work for circus tickets. He's like, "I'm not going to make you work for circus tickets, but you got a job. You start tomorrow." And then I started there, and then kept going. But leaving a lot out, that's how I got into the business. Advice to someone thinking of getting into makeup. Um, that's a really good question. I get asked it a lot. I usually say don't, and that's I do. I usually say don't do it, and it's not because I'm being a jerk, and it's not because I'm trying to discourage people. That's not it. Because when I asked that same question when I was getting into it, I was told don't, and what it did, it it drove me more. It gave me so much more drive. Also, what it does is people, when you say don't, if that person gives up, they never really wanted it. And if I see them again shortly thereafter down the line, then you know that they're serious and they really want it. And they're not going to listen to anybody. They're going to do what they're going to do because that's what I did. I was told time and time again, no, it's never going to happen. Don't even think about it. But I just didn't listen. I was just either stupid or blind or so driven that I just, this is it. This is all I'm doing. There are no other options. There is no other choice. This is what I'm doing. So I usually say that first. And then secondly, I say, well then get really good. Be really, really good. You want to work? You want to get a job? You have to be good. It's not that hard of an answer. If you're really good at it and you're a cool person and you're friendly and you're kind and you're generous and you're hardworking and you'll work. Not. I didn't attend school. I just learned through a lot of books, a lot of trial and error, a lot of mistakes, a lot of ruining ovens with foam latex in very small apartments. um, a lot of, yeah. I kind of learned through trial and error, and also surrounding myself with other people that were learning or have learned, and learning from them, and just trying to pick up every crumb of education that I could. And I also learned kind of on the job when I started working. I learned a lot, and I still learn. I don't think you ever get done learning. But no, I didn't go to school. It was mostly books and mostly just working with other people and hanging out with other people that were learning at the same time. And we were all just so into it, just, working on each other. So. I think it helps, absolutely. I think, especially with the foundations, with the basics, corrective makeup and straight makeup and shadowing and highlighting and things like that, and glamour makeup and things. I think that's really important to know and really important to learn, and I think schools teach those things really well. As far as effects makeup goes, which is what I specialize in, I think it definitely, sure, it can help with foundations and basics. It's very expensive. Um, I don't necessarily recommend them. I recommend, there's so many books and there's so many videos, and you can go on the internet now, and there's so many tutorials online and things like that. Maybe not necessarily from a lot of people you want to learn from, but you can learn some things. And I think also schools are beneficial if you can afford it and you really put your all into it. Um, but I think also, again, going back to if you really want it, you'll learn. I think that's what's missing now from the industry is there aren't enough people that are really taking the time and the initiative to teach themselves and really want it and hungry for it and do it all the time. You have to just do it all the time if you want to learn and be really good, I think. I think it's changed for the better because of there's so much more access to information and learning tools and stuff. I think that's great. I think also there's so many people doing it that that it's easier to surround yourself with like people. When I was coming up and growing up and learning it, you felt like a misfit. You felt like you were the only one. You know, when I was in my bedroom in Pennsylvania, or when I was in my apartment when I just got out here, I didn't know there was a giant group of misfit toys out there that you all thought alike and you all wanted the same thing. There wasn't the internet, and there wasn't all these there wasn't ways to social media and Facebook and Twitter and all this. There wasn't all that, so you didn't know who was out there or what people were doing. You had to get into that world, and I think that's what's different now for the better, is that you can find people. You can easily reach out and find people that are like you and make friends and make connections and network and things. I think that's great. On the other hand, I think it's changed for the worse in that now anybody can do it because of the internet, because of those exact same things. Oh, anyone can do it. Oh, I can, glue some shit on your face and I'm a makeup effects guy. You can throw some blood on somebody and go, look, I'm a makeup effects guy. Like, anybody can do it now. We live in an age where anyone can do it. Anyone can make a record at home. Anyone can make a movie with their little camera out in my backyard. That doesn't make it good, and that doesn't make you good. But I think that's the part of it that isn't so good now. So the same thing both ways. On American Horror Story, I work in specifically the special effects, makeup, and prosthetics department. Aaron Kruger McCash is the department head for the show. And then there are levels of people, and we all kind of do our own thing. And Mike McCash, her husband, kind of is the department head for prosthetics, and so there's him and me in the prosthetics department. So we do pretty much all your main characters, and we run that show as far as prosthetics go. Every day is different, and that's what's great about that show. You're not just doing one thing every day. You're not doing zombies every single day for an entire show. You're not doing this. That's what's great about Horror Story. So daily, I don't know, usually, you start the week off with super early calls, way before the sun comes up. And then, you knock out makeups depending on what the theme of the season is. This past season on Freak Show was really ambitious because we had a lot of the main characters in makeups every single day, whether it be tattoos or prosthetics or things like that. So you start the day off getting those characters ready, and those makeups take 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 hours, and then you start shooting, and that show's really ambitious. And they're in almost every scene, usually one or more of those characters. So we spend the day shooting. Usually it's a very long day, and then at the end of that day, we take the makeups off and hopefully have a decent turnaround for sleep and start it all over again. And that goes on for about 6 months. So it's a very grueling pace. It's really challenging, but also incredibly satisfying. So it's fun. It's a fun show.
Makes a good team.
What makes a good team? Respect for each other. You have to have respect for, obviously everybody, so you can support each other and each other's decisions artistically and also business wise. I think you got to be super supportive. You have to trust people. Everybody has to trust each other. You all have to be on the same page. The team has to be on the same page for a common goal, whatever that goal is, be it big or small. And you all have to know what that goal is, and everything needs to be very clear. So in order to help each other get there. Another plane. That's my team flying in now. What else? What makes a good team? Listening to each other. You have to listen to each other, and help each other out and support each other. And, because especially when you're on a show for 6 months at a time or so, people are going to get sick. sick, and people are going to get tired, and people are going to get moody, and bad things are going to happen in each other's lives personally. You know, 6 months is a long time, a half a year to be in a boat with the same 3 or 4 people on a day-to-day basis, including weekends. You know, you can't help but your lives cross, paths cross. Things happen with each other's families and significant others and pets, and you know, there's all kinds of things, in your health and all this. So you have to be really supportive, and you have to be really caring, and I think that's what makes a good team. Artistically, yeah, you all have to know each other's limitations and know each other's strengths, and I think that's important. Drive.
Cool. Awesome. All right. That's all I've got.
That's it.